came from a customer, can you make me this? I said, well, I don't know, give me some ideas. For example, the first thing we started out with potting soil, and old man Eddie Panic, he designed that for us. Eddie Garcia came along and designed the rose soil for us. And then he designed the rose food for us. So all of our inspiration and our brains, you might say, come from people just like you. I'm not a brain. I don't think sit back and figure out all this stuff. I can add to it, build on it. And I think John can probably say the same thing. John has been a big help to me. When I first met John, I was making deliveries to nurseries all over town. Every time I go to a new nursery, John would be working here. I was thinking, my guy can't hold a job. Well, I found out John's not stupid. What he wanted was all the knowledge that all the nurserymen had. And that he got it by working for him. And then I hired him to run my store, and then I sold it to him. He did such a good job. I didn't need to go up there and put out brush fires, and one of my best employees. John, did you say? What was the question again?
The question was the difference in a profession, and we can expand this beyond Garrett juice.
Oh, yeah.
But the question between pro-made and homemade.
Let me go back to the one about teaching children, and you know, I'm beginning to see a lot more younger people at these things. I think it's maybe me. So, you know, what we do to encourage children to garden, because it is an important topic, you know, so people come to all of our businesses and ask for donations all the time. They're always, there's the cancer folks, the liberals, you know, all of these different organizations. And so, you know, and there's so many of them asking for money that, and they're friends, they're good people, they're your customers, but I just set up some guidelines after a while. And the guideline is, if I'm going to make a donation, it's to a school that's teaching organics. And that's all. To anybody teaching organics to children, that's where we focus our attention. And that is really, I think, the way that you can do it. You know, you organic gardeners can go to some of these schools and help teach too. We do need them to come along. And part of the importance of that is the climate change. They need to be tuned in to what's happening because they're going to look at us and they're going to look back at us and say, what were these people thinking? And so we need to encourage them to make the changes, and that's how we do it. We go to the schools and we teach them organics. I have one person full-time doing that, going to any school that asks us. And then we supply them with the compost, the knowledge, the fertilizers, and this is how it's done.
Very good. Can everybody hear me if I don't take this microphone okay? Question here, and I'm going to get Stuart to start off with the answer to this. We have an older residential St. Augustine grass yard. Dirt seems very compacted, some thatch, and on and on. What do we do about it? I know Medina has sort of built a business on working with farmers with problems like that, so I'll let you start out on how you tell people to soften and improve the soil, and then we'll again toss it around between the whole group.
Well, we have seen if you have a compacted soil, your roots are not going to go in the ground, your water is not going to go in the ground, and you won't have production. This compaction could come from many things. It could come from walking on the soil when it's wet, dogs walking on it, but whatever it comes from, the solution that we talk about is stimulating the microbial activity and use a biological product like Medina Soil Activator and add molasses with the mixture. I'm not sure where the molasses started from, whether that was Howard or Malcolm, but when we have seen adding molasses to a soil, it really does make things happen faster. Once you get the soil looser, yes, the water goes in, the oxygen goes in, the roots go deeper, and the whole process turns around. We have worked with large farmers that have had fields that would run aerators through, which is a mechanical machine that pokes holes in the ground, and they would have to do this just about every year to loosen up the soil. When they started adding a biological program to their fertility program, not only did they sell their airway, but they're not using herbicides because the airway would dig up the soil, expose soil, and weeds would sprout. So they would have to come in with a herbicide, and their production has gone up 40 bales, square bales per acre. And they say it takes them 2 square bales to pay for the cost of the products that they're putting out extra. The other 38 bales at $7 a bale is profit, extra profit.
Well, I want to add, I think that it's, and I'm talking lawns more than Stuart's more of an expert in the big. Compost itself, good composted material put out. If you've got St. Augustine, don't cover it because it'll turn yellow on you. You can put about what you want on some of the Bermuda grasses. But I think part of this compaction problem that we see across is the overuse of synthetic fertilizers. When you start wiping out your microbes, and you do lose some of the good guys each time you put out a chemical fertilizer, folks. And why is it compacting? Why is it not alive? Because there's nothing there to keep it alive. You start using Medina products, and I know that's what his does very well, is bring that life back, get some compost out there, use some molasses, and you can get the tilth of the soil back up. But number one is get away from the use of, well, you'll be able to afford them pretty soon anyway, but get the heck off of the synthetic fertilizers and get back to natural organic products on your own.
So the molasses question. The molasses came from West Texas. The organic cotton growers, of course, they couldn't afford the types of fertilizers that we put into our lawns. And so they had to get, like many of you should be doing, the nitrogen directly from the air. So there was a product called AgriGrow. It was sprayed out onto the fields where the cotton was growing. This is a nitrogen-fixing organism that didn't need to live on the plant. It lived in the soil. And so this is where the nitrogen would come to grow the cotton, but they had to be fed. And so the follow-up was the constant use of the molasses to feed these guys. And so it came from the organic industry. It was the organic cotton growers from West Texas and the Panhandle.
Howard works on commercially landscaped projects on a large acreage scale. How do you deal with problem compaction?
Well, the best story, and I may have told you this one last year, was the Sabre Corporation called me to convert their project over to organic techniques, and they had let it really get in bad shape, and they said all we can do is apply one thing. We only have the budget for one application of something all year, and they asked me what to do, and I instantly made up something. I said, well, I think the best thing to do would be to put out dry molasses at 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. It just, it fit the budget. It fit the amount of money we needed to spend. And it's a commodity, you know, it's relatively inexpensive. And we put it out, and the people putting it out, the employees were laughing about this crazy guy that wanted to put sugar out all over this property. And within a period of about a week and a half, they started calling me and saying that they were taking people out to see the place and give tours because it was so green and it was doing so well. And they said, oh, by the way, all the fire ant mounds that were on the property before we did it are all completely gone. So obviously, dry molasses became a staple in my recommendations, and it continues to be that. I told somebody on the air this morning, I think we were talking about using it at about 200 pounds per acre on an agricultural situation. You can get by with using it even less than that. Homeowners, gardeners, if you haven't tried it before, no matter what else you're doing, dry molasses is something special. It's little bits of soy coated in molasses, liquid molasses, and so you're feeding a wide range of biological activity. It just fires it up so fast it's unbelievable. And that's apparently what runs off the fire ants and causes some of the other good things to happen. The only thing I recommend strongly is that you don't do it early in the morning when there's a lot of dew on the ground, or you're going to be looking like a big piece of candy.
And tasting like it too. Well, I have a little bit different take on how you get rid of but I think one of the biggest problems that
Wait a minute, you got to know, Beck said it's because he sells lawnmowers.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We need many lawnmowers. But seriously, I think one of the biggest problems facing our area is lack of water. I mean, saws can pretend that there's unlimited sources of water out there, thinking people know that they're not. What is the largest single user of water on your property? It's your grass. And I don't have any objection to St. Augustine. I like St. Augustine better than any of the other grasses. But I think it should make up 15% of your landscape, not 85% of your landscape. And you drive down the street, the landscapes that turn your head are not the ones that are full of grass. They're the ones that are full of flowers, attractive plantings and shrubbery and things like that. So get away from so much grass. Get away from the temptation to use the chemical fertilizers. Get away from running back